Hello, everyone. Happy Monday, and welcome back for a brand new edition of Collider Dailies. I'm Perri. This is John. I need to point out that John is a wizard today because he's pulling double duty. He's a panelist on the show, and he's also handling the behind the scenes. And I must take a moment. Applause.
Hold your applause until after the show because it could go catastrophically wrong.
At least you're daring to do it. I would be too afraid.
Well, so if you do see me, if you're watching the actual video, if you see me looking over, I'm probably checking my other monitor to make sure that things aren't broke. But I think we'll be fine.
We appreciate you very, very much. I would also appreciate if this ad went away so that I could see the live chat. Now I can see everybody. Hello, Sam, Bruce, Jeremy. I hope you're all having a very good morning. Before we jump into our topics today, I need to give a shout out to Beyerdynamic for these wonderful microphones. The M70 Pro X microphone is what you listen to every day on Collider Dailies. So big thanks to the team at Beyerdynamic for making sure we have spot-on audio. Thank you all so much. All right, our title topic today, John, it's a big one. We have a new Marvel banner. So when Echo arrives on January 10th in 2024, it's going to debut under a banner called Marvel Spotlight. What that means is that it is a subsection of Marvel that's designed for standalone stories versus stories that are heavily connected to the greater Marvel Cinematic Universe. Here are some quotes from Marvel's head of streaming, Brad Winderbaum? I'm not sure. I apologize for that. Marvel Spotlight gives us a platform to bring more grounded, character-driven stories to the screen, and in the case of Echo, focusing on street-level stakes over larger MCU continuity. Just like comics fans didn't need to read Avengers or Fantastic Four to enjoy Ghost Rider, Spotlight comic, our audience doesn't need to have seen other Marvel series to understand what's happening in Maya's story. All right. Not Echo specifically. I'm talking about Marvel Spotlight overall. What is your take on it? Is this a good thing for the brand or maybe not so much?
They should have been doing this for a long time. Like this, I stand by that one of the biggest problems with the MCU right now is overinflation. They have felt like they have to obviously be pushing Disney Plus by doing series on Disney Plus and things of that nature, and it's caused, honestly, I think more problems for them than it's really helped them out. You know, having to watch like three different shows and 2 movies to watch the Marvels when that film comes out is not good. So if they were going to be doing Disney Plus series, they should have been their own separate things like Spotlight is going to be. I think that should have been what the Disney Plus shows were, and the movie stuff should have been its own. Like that's the main thing, and then the TV shows should have been sort of disconnected.
Yeah, I very much understand that thinking and do agree that it would have been great if this was available and felt more like a deliberate inclusion earlier on rather than a Band-Aid for a problem that has grown over the years. So because of that, when I first heard this news, admittedly, my brain immediately went to con negative mode. And the first thing I thought was, this kind of feels like backtracking. Why not just slow down and do what you should have been doing all along? Tell coherent stories that are connected, but also stand on their own 2 feet well enough that anybody can enjoy them. And I am a big believer, I've said this many times, that any franchise should be doing that. I do understand that the value of a franchise and a viewer's dedication to that franchise does mean they need to be rewarded by having a building story along the way. But also, these things cost so much money. Every single time you make it so someone has to see all the past iterations, that just narrows your audience every single step of the way, and that's going to hurt your business in the end. So that's one big thing. But then I started to, calm down, take a breath, really think about it. And, if if they do make do on their promise, if this does truly deliver, character-driven stories, perhaps on a lower budget, it could be a really exciting way for the studio to take, more risks and bring in newer talent. So it could be a good thing. I think the fact that after Echo had already been announced and connections had already been made from Echo to other Marvel properties, something about making the Spotlight announcement with that particular title feels a little weird, but feeling weird now and, making do on the promise later could be two very different things. So I hope they do.
Well, and I also think that it's a good direction to be taking, especially the Disney Plus stuff, because you combine this with their like restructuring and reframing the way that they're approaching the shows. I think that it's only going to be a net benefit. We just kind of have to wonder if it's a little too late, because there's a lot of people who have already sort of jumped off, especially the Disney Plus ship, when it comes to the MCU side of things. So we'll just have to see how it goes. I think that it is the correct way to go. I think that it's a smart decision. It's just, we'll see if it pans out.
Yeah, and the sad truth of it is jumping off the Disney Plus ship also likely means some have dropped off the theatrical ship too. So, that could be what we've been seeing at the box office. Not that like everything is an epic failure. These movies clearly still have a big audience and make a good deal of money. It's just not like it was before, and I think that is directly coming from the oversaturation of Marvel stories in the market.
So, when it comes to movies and it comes to like audience acceptance of films, for me, my barometer has always been my parents. If my parents are watching something, if they're going out to see something, then I know that it's probably like something that general audiences are on board for. My parents have basically jumped off the MCU wagon, and it's largely because they don't have the time or the patience to watch everything that they have to watch to get into something. Like when my mom saw Multiverse of Madness, she was horribly confused because she hadn't watched WandaVision. So like suddenly Wanda becoming a villain just seemed like something completely out of left field for her. And I feel like there are a lot of people who are in that same situation. So maybe doing these sort of disconnected things that you can watch them if you want more MCU content, or you can just skip them and move on to the next big release. I think that's a smart way to go.
I'm also just a big advocate for companies like this to, take big swings, do weird things, like do things out of left field, like Werewolf by Night. I want more of that.
That's something that I've always appreciated about DC, because like DC, obviously with the DCU, they don't have it nearly as together as the MCU does, but they aren't afraid to do Joker and the Batman and these sort of like disconnected other things that can take big swings and can be different and can be unique. And, they don't have to tie in necessarily. Like, I've always appreciated that about DC, and I would like to see that a lot more with Marvel.
So someone in the chat, Bruce, actually brings up a very, very good point. He writes, I wonder if the average viewer will understand what Marvel Spotlight is. I think this ties back to what I had said before. Is it too late for something like this? Because I feel like if, let's say, just call them the average viewer, has fallen off the Marvel train and isn't prioritizing seeing anything anymore, are they going to seek out the information necessary to understand what Marvel Spotlight even is? Therefore, will this new banner be effective at all, or has it already alienated the viewers that it's targeting?
That is a solid point, and that is actually something that I didn't think about, so definitely good one there, Bruce. Honestly, I think the only thing that they can do to combat that is just be sure to get the information out there as much as possible. Like, they need to be doing big social pushes and big information dumps constantly, just being like, hey guys, Marvel Spotlight is disconnected stuff, their own things that are like closed circuit sort of stuff. Just make sure that every possible place that they can put that information out there, it's out there, so as many eyeballs as possible can see it. But I mean, yeah, it might be just a little too late. They might have shot themselves in the foot, and it might be too much.
Well, that promotion, but also just make good stuff.
Yeah.
I am also a big believer that quality product rises to the top. And I feel like if you deliver a movie or a show that's good enough, whether it's under this banner or not, whether it is targeted at longtime fans or more so for newcomers, like, it doesn't matter. If it's good, I do like to believe that word of mouth will be strong enough that the best content is going to be seen by the most amount of people. Maybe that's wishful thinking on my part, but I'm going to hold tight to that idea.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but there's you also have to take into consideration the fact that there's just so much good television these days that even if something is really, really good, it's still fighting an uphill battle because, like, you know, a new Marvel series comes out, it's got to fight off, you know, the most recent Stranger Things season and like House of the Dragons coming in the not too distant future. Like, there's so much competing for your attention that it needs to be exceptional. It can't be good. It needs to be fantastic.
It is true. It is true. And I think that will be true for the foreseeable future. But I do think in the near future, we are going to see a dip in the amount of content that we are getting, given how this industry is changing. All right. You want to roll into our second story now? This is one I'm very excited about.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So the social media embargo has lifted on The Hunger Games, the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which means there are a bunch of first reactions out there, maybe one from yours truly included. Before I even read a single one, though, John, I want to know, are you a Hunger Games fan? Have you seen the other movies? And are you looking forward to Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes?
I saw the first two, and then I kind of stopped. It just wasn't for me. I don't know. Just wasn't a huge fan.
Why?
Wasn't really on board for it. I don't know. Like, it was fun. I just, didn't go crazy for it like some people did.
I'm trying so hard to keep myself under control just because.
Yeah, I know you're a fan.
I'm a big fan. I think The Hunger Games and Catching Fire are exceptional films. I think the two Mockingjay movies are okay, and I can kind of see why those movies might cause someone to fall off, but not Hunger Games and Catching Fire.
I also they were also coming out at a time when I was very busy with a lot of other stuff, so I wound up missing them in theaters. And oftentimes, if I miss something in a theater,
life is more important than movies. Is that what you're saying?
You got to pay your bills somehow, Perri, and not all of us get paid to watch every single movie. So just saying. For the most part, though, if I miss something in theaters, unless it is a brand or franchise that I'm really on board with, or it is just so good that one of my friends tells me I have to watch it, I tend to kind of gloss over some newer films. So
okay,
that's just kind of what happened. I just wound up missing it.
I understand. I respect it. All right, I'm going to roll into some reactions that I caught on Twitter. I pulled 3 of them. So the first one from Tessa Smith. The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes perfectly delivers the downward spiral of who will become President Coriolanus Snow that fans love to hate. The entire cast is phenomenal. Tom Blythe gives the performance of a lifetime. Then we have Russ Milheim, who says, the latest Hunger Games is fantastic. It's an incredibly faithful adaptation whose slight tweaks actively improve the source material, especially Act 3. The entire cast is phenomenal, and the world of Panem is beautifully realized thanks to the immaculate production design. And I'm going to wrap up with this one from Eric Italiano. Never saw a Hunger Games film prior to Songbirds and Snakes. I liked it. Too long, but still well-paced, compelling story. Rachel Zegler is a superstar. The music is great. Surprisingly violent, too. Also, really cool to not realize it was a movie about a villain till there was an hour left, which is an interesting take. That's why I pulled that one, because I was curious to find someone who had not seen the original films. So I am limited to what I had written on social media. So I'll just paraphrase a little bit there. I had wrote that Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is a rock-solid addition to the franchise. I'm very happy with it. One thing that I was thinking about, and I brought this up on previous Collider Dailies when we were talking about trailers, I was very curious after finishing the book if they were going to split that book into 2 movies. I understand why they did not, very much. I understand that decision, but I think what wound up happening with the final film is that it is a noticeably stellar first 2/3, but then the last third of the movie is just like so-so. And I also agree with what everyone said about the cast. I think the casting, like, across the board is absolutely phenomenal. I think Tom Blythe is a great Snow. It's a tough role to do where you have to play a protagonist that the audience must feel invested in from start to finish, but that person has a deteriorating moral compass and makes some not so great decisions throughout it, but I think he's perfect in that respect. And then I also loved Rachel Zegler in the role because the role of Lucy Gray could feel maybe a little too over the top. So it seems to me like it could be a great challenge to capture her bubbly personality and the theatricality of what she does on a daily basis, but also manage to never undermine the severity of the situation she finds herself in and the fear that being in the games presents. So I thought she did that really, really well. So in conclusion, not an overall home run, but still a rock solid new addition to this franchise. John, have we swayed you at all? Are you any more eager to see The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes?
I think for me, when it comes to this movie, because it's a prequel, correct? Like that's...
Yes,
Yes.
It takes place 64 years before Katniss, Jennifer Lawrence's character, volunteered to be a tribute in the Hunger Games.
I guess for me, my whether or not I'm gonna like be all that excited to go see this or not is really comes down to, and like you might not be able to answer this, although the book is out, so that should be something that you can tell. How standalone is it?
Okay, so this is part of the reason why I pulled that reaction, and my thoughts on this are limited because I literally can't pluck the book out of my brain, but I think the fact that it's a prequel almost like inherently makes it standalone, where I think they very, very well established that this takes place soon after a war that has decimated the country, the capital in particular. And I think it very effectively presents the blueprint of why and how the game started. So I think it could be a compelling standalone story, but also leave a newcomer in the position of wanting to know where the games go after this. So okay. I think they did a good job in that sense.
Well, I'll probably see it. It's one of those things where like it's a big franchise film, so I'll just see it because of the nature of our job. But I'll be a little bit more comfortable watching it, not being a big Hunger Games fan, knowing that it is kind of its own thing.
I do think you're safe. I think everyone's safe in that respect. So if you've never seen a single Hunger Games movie, I would suggest being open-minded about this one and giving it a shot. All right, last story of the day. I'll just go ahead and say this is a little bit less of a discussion topic and more of an update because, there's been a lot of predictions that have proven false, and we got to let this situation play out. This is the latest on the SAG-AFTRA strike. I'm going to read a little from the Variety article that covered this news when it broke, and then I'm also going to read the official Twitter statement that SAG's official account had put out. So, SAG-AFTRA may take another day to respond to the studio's last, best, and final offer. I despise that phrasing for obvious reasons. Oh, there, I'm putting my opinion in it. Oops. As the union's negotiating committee continues to weigh its next move, the studio's last talk to union leadership on Saturday afternoon when a large group of CEOs sought to make clear that they will not make further concessions. After that meeting, some members of the SAG-AFTRA negotiating committee expressed dissatisfaction with the studio's offer. At least 4 of them retweeted a post that urged A-list actors to pressure the studio heads to come back with better terms. The article goes on to say, the studio's offer includes a success-based bonus structure in streaming. Under the proposal, actors would get double their typical residual if they appear in a show that ranks among the most watched on a streaming platform. The studios have steadily improved that bonus as the talks have gone on, but they have not agreed to the union's demand for a cut of total streaming revenue. The studios are offered protections against the studios also offered protections against artificial intelligence and what the studios have described as, quote, historic wage increases. The union has held out for robust protections against the use of AI to create digital doubles. So that is from the Variety article. And then the SAG-AFTRA Twitter account has written, "Dear SAG-AFTRA members, the TV/Theatrical Negotiating Committee analyzed and thoroughly discussed the AMPTP's counter proposal all day and well into the night and will continue our deliberations on Monday. We will keep you updated. In solidarity and deep gratitude, your TV/Theatrical Negotiating Committee." So that's it. That's the latest. I am sitting here eagerly awaiting an update for admittedly selfish reasons, but also as someone who loves this industry and loves the people in it and wants them to see them get what they are owed, what they are worth. And I'm so ready for this to end. I can't express that enough. But as much as I want it to end, I would never want it to end unless the negotiating committee and the members of this union feel comfortable with what they're getting and feel it is what they need in order to progress in this industry to the best of their ability and to make sure that they are actually able to live lives and they are being treated fairly.
Yeah, it's, you know, as you have basically said, it is one of those things where the strike going on does, in a way, have an effect on what we do for a living. There is a negative impact that we feel from it. But that being said, I am personally willing to deal with that so that all of the actors and everyone can get the deal that they need to get, because what we're talking about here goes beyond right now. And it's going to have effects that are going to ripple out for years to come. And so if I got to be a little bit uncomfortable and actors can get a great deal, I'm all for it. And the thing is that right now the AMPTP is pulling from the same playbook that they pulled for the WGA. It's the same. They do this every time there's a negotiation.
Do they think that works? Do they think people don't see through that verbiage? That it genuinely baffles me.
I think it works on weak-willed individuals. But I do not think that anybody on the negotiating committee or anybody really paying attention falls into that category. So it's them. They're playing games. Is what they're doing. They're trying to.
Mike Joyce in the comments said, "I don't know why the AMPTP is using the same intimidation tactics they used with the WGA. It didn't work on them." I feel like intimidation tactics are like, I think they've been ridiculous all along, but especially at this point, like, what are we doing anymore? Act like grown adults and the leaders of this industry and make a fair deal. Make a fair deal already, and let's get on with our lives. It
is. I'm at a loss for words, honestly, with how just asinine some of this is the way this is playing out is just. It's just awful to watch, and it's embarrassing for the AMPTP, honestly, because we see right through it. Everyone sees through it. Everyone in the guild, everybody who's watching it from the outside, we all know what they're doing. They aren't being slick.
Yeah, it is. It is ridiculous, but the main point has been the same since the very beginning. As much as we all want this to end now, it's a long game, and it'll benefit everybody for the unions to stand their grounds now in these negotiations. So I guess I will conclude this part of Collider Dailies with like a big thank you to the folks involved in the negotiating and all the actors who are still out there on the picket lines. It is an invaluable part of this process, that you are standing strong until the very, very end, until the end you deserve in this whole situation. So thank you for standing strong for your union, but also for this industry overall, because if someone doesn't think they're going to be affected by this right now, I guarantee you these negotiations will cause a ripple effect, and it will set the tone for the future of this industry. So again, to the WGA folks who already did it and the SAG actors who are still out there, thank you. All right, with that, that is a wrap on this edition of Collider Dailies. John, is there anything you would like to promote before we close out?
Well, I mean, one big one for me. We spoke about this a little bit last week.
Ooh.
So you may notice that I am quite fuzzy right now. And that's because I am a big proponent of No Shave November. The original reasoning behind it was to raise awareness for prostate cancer research. And so I am going to, if I can find it really quick, put a link in the chat for where you can donate to the American Cancer Society. That is one of the big ones that I support. Every year I give a little bit of money to them. Wow, that is a really big, obnoxious URL, but whatever. We're going to roll with it.
It'll make it so no one can miss it.
If it'll actually send. Oh, it's too long. Chat is yelling at me.
We could add something to the description of this video so people could find it.
Yes, I will do that. So that you can go and donate if you can to help with research for that. And sit there and grow out some facial hair. Use it as a good excuse to start your winter beard early. And if you know anybody who has ever had to deal with prostate cancer, I've had several family members who have had it. It's scary. And so reach out to them, see that they're okay, and support them all in any way that you can.
I'm going to leave it there and just emphasize what John just said. Go check that out. We're going to put a link in the description section of this video so you can find it with ease. And I will say a big thank you to everybody out there watching this edition of Collider Dailies. You will get a John and Mackie show tomorrow morning, so tune in. We'll see you soon with a brand new episode.
Now I got to actually end the episode.